Good morning, Daryl. Very nice to talk to you. Just as a very brief introduction, Daryl doesn't need in any introduction. I'm sure everybody knows Daryll Cullinan in cricket and probably a lot of people outside of cricket. Uh, Daryl, it's this is the first of our podcasts, and I hope the first of many. A little podcast series that we've decided to do, just talking about cricket, discussing cricket. There's so much to talk about these days. Cricket since the days when I used to throw balls to you in the nets, and I played a bit of club cricket against you. You obviously went on to play 70 tests with a test career average of 44.21. You played 138 ODIs. So those experiences that you've got in cricket since that time as a player, you've been very involved in cricket commentary, traveling the world. You just returned recently, I know, from another trip to India where you worked on the MS Dhoni Academy. You did some coaching there, I understand. You're still the CEO of the or the director of the MS Dhoni Academy. So I'm going to kick off straight away and ask you. I just realized this morning I went into Facebook and I saw a lot of posts on Hansie Cronje. And today, exactly 21 years ago, on the 1st of June 2002, Hansie passed away in that tragic flying accident, plane crash in near George. And I can't believe it's 21 years ago. And then I also couldn't believe when I looked at the post that Hansie was only 32 years old. I mean, you think of Hansie, you would think he was probably in his 40s when he died. He did so much in that space of 32 years, and I know you played most of your cricket probably with him and under him as your captain. Do you mind just having a little chat and tell me a little bit more about Hansie the person?
Yes, it was good to be with you. And I must say that thanks for reminding me, actually, not that it would need much of a reminder. 1st of June, and I'm in the Cape now, and it's a sort of cold and wet day. And that 1st of June that he died, the country was caught in a cold snap. It was similar weather conditions, but yes, 32. I think he was at the height of his cricket career and fame and his presence. And just being Hansie Cronje in South Africa was huge. He just had that charismatic style, look, and leadership qualities about him, both on and off the field. I think MS Dhoni's probably since Hansie, if I think now, the one that has got that sort of aura about him. But no, MS is somebody else. But it was very sad. I think he'll never remain forgotten. Hansie will always be with us. He was a fantastic captain. I enjoyed playing with him. I enjoyed playing underneath him. He had good belief in my cricket and he had faith in my abilities. And I'm always indebted to him in terms of him backing me all the way. I knew him from a young kid. I knew his brother even better. I knew his father just as well. Man that did so much for cricket in the Free State, Bloemfontein area, where they went to school and grew up. But yeah, we lost a good man there. Yes, one can't condone what happened. We know what happened. But I have only the greatest admiration and respect for him as a person, a captain. And I must say, I do miss him. And I often think, well, what would the cricket world and South African cricket be if he was still around today, particularly when it comes to his leadership skills and what he did for the game and what he could still be doing for the game. So it wasn't just a loss for South African cricket. I think he was a loss for world cricket.
Daryl, just to elaborate a little bit on that, Hansie as a one-day cricketer had a phenomenal record. And do you think today, with the kind of with the IPL especially springs to mind, and all the amount of T20 cricket that they're playing all over the world, do you think that Hansie would have been one of the big name players in ODI cricket and in
Absolutely.
T20? So sorry, T20 cricket today, the franchise cricket.
No, no, absolutely. Kobus, he had that sort of game as well. He was in those days. He was a good improviser. He played spin as well. He swept well. He lapped well. He would have easily, I think, he had the game to adjust to what the requirements today are for a batter in terms of T20 cricket. But he bowled a useful ball. I mean, Sachin said he was one of the bowlers he least liked facing because he just had that ability to hit that spot, that sort of uncomfortably slow pace for a lot of batters. And just his leadership. He probably would have been retired by now, but if you just think of the way Stephen Fleming has stepped into the role of coach and what he's done around the world, and just being Hansie Cronje, I've absolutely no doubt as a player and then ongoing, he would definitely still be a very strong presence. And he would have had the game for T20 cricket because a lot of it's about power, tall guys, ability to clear the ropes. And in our time, he was pretty good at that in any case. I mean, he had more of a, if you think about it, he had more of a one-day game than a test game. And he would have been a very, very good player today.
Daryll, unfortunately, it's almost, I almost feel I don't want to go there, but you cannot really bring up and talk about Hansie without talking about match fixing. Unfortunately, as much as Hansie will be remembered as one of South African all-time great players and captains, you know, the minute you talk about Hansie, the whole issue of match fixing comes up. You were in the team playing at that time, and if I remember correctly, when that whole thing exploded. Sean Pollock stepped in and became captain. Can you maybe just talk us through I would almost say through the dressing room during that time, the senior players, how did they react to this?
Oh, look, I was not playing one-day cricket at that stage. I was just playing test cricket. But it was 96, I think, after a test series that finished in India. We then, on our way out, had to play a benefit match for Mahinda Amarnath in Mumbai. And what happened there was the approach had been made. It was the first time that it had ever been brought into a team environment. It was put to the team and then it was dismissed. So what happened subsequent to that? And then this all broke in 2000. So I wasn't playing one-day cricket up till that stage. And then what we found out afterwards when the whole story came out that he was involved in the follow-up sort of one-day series in India. But I think South Africa at large, and you would have been here as well. I remember there was a newspaper headline, "The Pope, yes, Hansie, no." That was the firm belief amongst all South Africans that no ways this could have been true. But then, obviously admitted to, I played in that Kanpur test where he subsequently admitted to have taken, I think, $30,000 on what it was, a pitch report or inside information. I remember Mohammed Azzuddin got a brilliant 100 there. He played superbly well. So no, it was unbelievable shock. And to this day, well, we've never heard the tapes, which were always supposedly the damning evidence against him. But by his own admittance, obviously that was enough in what they wanted. I thought he was unnecessarily made a scapegoat. I don't think the punishment fitted the crime, not at all. We know of others that admitted to, whether it was information, whether it was team selection in that regard, or pitch report. Warne and War came out in Australia and so forth. So, to finish it, I would say, Quibus, that I don't think we really saw all of it or knew everyone that was involved. I do have a feeling I think there were a lot more involved. I wouldn't know who or whatever, but I think it's just hard to imagine that, those that eventually got fingered out severely, Azzuddin, Cronje, Salim Malik, I think was one. He got a lifelong ban. So no, I think that whole story, what we saw was only a tip of the iceberg, on and off the field, and how it operated.
If I just one last question on this topic, within the team, the players such as yourself, the senior players, springs to mind John T, Gary Kirsten, Brian McMillan, these guys. Did Hansie in general, did he have the full support of the players, or was there a bit of a two camps within the team?
No, not at all. He had the support of the players. I think he was a superb follow-up to Kepler Wessels, who was his own sort of man and had his own leadership style, whereas Hansie was a more engaging, softer personality. I think he had more of a more of a natural bonding process. He ticked all the boxes in terms of the type of captain and leader you would have wanted as a player. But no, we were pretty much a team as such, and there was no wind of it. There was not even a suggestion. It took everybody by complete surprise. But no, I wouldn't at all say that under his leadership there was ever, I don't ever felt, or there was a rift for whatever reasons, maybe this being one of them. No, there was nothing of that to speak of, Kobus. No.
Yeah. Daryl, to move on to the game today, I know you're still very actively involved in the game, mostly probably through a commentary that I know, and also coaching. As I just mentioned at the start of the
Mm.
podcast, you just returned recently from India, from a coaching stint there. Um, the game today compared to the game that you like in your time, how the game was played then. How would you compare it?
Mm. Well, Kobus, it's a good question there, because it's almost gone 360, and we could talk for hours on it. So, from a playing perspective, in our days, think about it, when we were growing up, and say you had a young player coming through, he first consolidated his game in red ball cricket. Let's call it time cricket. And then when he was confident about that, now I'm talking about sort of emerging almost at first class level, or even playing first class cricket, you then develop the skills around white ball cricket. But today, the challenge, and I work with kids from as young as 5, 10, 12, 14, 15. I found my coaching niche, to my great surprise, working with young kids instead of professionals, and that level where I've never really aspired to coach at. You're now almost having to take them and even emerging players, first class cricketers, to get back to them, where you're trying to get a red ball game, trying to make a red ball game, a time game, out of limited overs T20 game. So it's gone the other way around, where, because the reality is, these young kids, they want to play T20 cricket. They want to not only, the excitement of T20 cricket and the way the IPL has just captivated their imagination and their superheroes and their stars. Now their first go to is IPL T20, whereas nowadays you aspire to be a good top test player, and those are simply because it wasn't around, obviously. So the whole shift in terms of the game today has gone. The focus is there, and we know that the rewards and the travel and the leagues you can play in it's quite phenomenal today. But so from a cricket point of view, I've just found that coaching, look, you can't ignore the basics, and you've got periods where, and I found from experience, you have from 9, 10, 11, 12, you have to nail down the basics. But in terms of T20 cricket, where I had more of a longer term view, that once his game had matured, he could start to then develop those sorts of techniques, because I do think it is different. I now, at a younger age, 13, 14, start to teach kids how to the T20 skills already, because they want it. Secondly, you've got to move with the times, and those are the skills that are in demand. You look at power hitting, they speak about a bottom man. They talk of hitting straight, but not with a straight bat. Now that's completely the opposite to the old traditional technique, which is play straight with a straight bat, a soft bottom hand. It's all about a firm top hand. And that's the challenge today, I think, in the game, is where you can have players, and this is something I've said for a very, very long time, where they can just seamlessly move between 50 over Test cricket, T20 cricket, not only technically, but mentally. And I think coaches have still got a lot of work to do. What is that? And mentally, how do they adjust? Because that also poses its challenges. And for me, the guy that's done it the best during his period was AB de Villiers. I thought AB could play a T20 game in Test cricket. He could play. But AB is a freak. He's the best talent I've seen in my time of playing and watching cricket. But you look at all the other guys, have all had dips in form, where they've come from a lot of T20 cricket, perhaps to Test cricket, or other way around. I mean, Kane Williamson took a dip. I mean, Virat took a dip. I think Virat was also, a lot of it was burnout. Joe Root. So a lot's got to be said for that ability to adjust. Because, give you an example, Test cricket, you're getting close to the ball, you're not driving balls on good length, you're limited in your scoring areas. Whereas T20, you're doing exactly the opposite. You're either one side of the ball, you're opening up your left side, you're powering the right side through, you're hitting straight, but you're never hitting with a straight bat. Whereas 50 over cricket, which seems, the talk is, it seems to be under the biggest threat. Its future is 50 over, but 50 over I quite like, because there's times where you need to bat like a test batter. There's a middle game where it's run a ball, that type of thing, and you can end with a flourish with T20 style cricket. You might play that up front, all that sort of thing. So to me, those are technical changes also have to be made. And I don't think a lot of coaches, and what I listen and I read and I hear, actually appreciate or actually understand it. And I'm talking about international coaches. I think you probably need to go the route where you have, like, my best test batsman wouldn't play T20 cricket. And at best, my 50 over, some of my T20 might play some 50 over. Now, that's all nicely said, and I think everybody would love that. But how big are the squad's going to be? And ultimately, I mean, Test cricket, the only way you're going to keep Test cricket strong and surviving, you've got to pay them IPL money. And a guy that's a good Test batsman, potentially, he wants to play T20 cricket, how are you going to hold him back? Because you can say, well, that's where the money is. So you can dress Test cricket up, and I think a lot of lip service gets done by players today. It's the ultimate, it's this and it's that, and blah, blah, blah. I think they want to be seen to be, or heard to be saying the right things about it. But as one who played Test cricket, I don't think it's got a long future, to be honest with you. I can't see that happening. Now I'm at the grassroots level, Kobus. I know you've worked a lot there as well. Kids don't even talk about Test cricket. They don't talk about Test cricket. They don't even aspire to. They don't want to play that. Time cricket to them is becoming foreign. It just doesn't fit in with how their lives work and what their thinking is. T20. And I'm one for actually saying, at school level, if you take the costs involved, often with schools, their biggest spend, Kobus, is in sport is actually cricket. And you look at I'm now talking about South Africa, and this is where they are right now. It's their least return is cricket, because you got balls, kids have got to have kit, which that's a personal thing with parents, but maintaining big fields, you can have one game on one field. Rugby, you can play 6 games a day. You can use for soccer, and all sorts of stuff. And they started to question, schools and budgets, they're all under pressure. Our spend and return, what is it giving us? So they're playing T20 cricket. They can play 3-4 games in a day. They need one field. They can give all the teams cricket on one day on one field. So it's these sorts of things. We can wax lyrically about cricket and the history of cricket and how cricket should only be played this way. And if you ask me about the game today, I think it's completely wrong. I'm talking at junior levels. The cost to play the game is absurd. It's ridiculous to play the game. Why do we have 11? Why can't we have less? Why don't we just bowl from one side? Cricket needs to seriously look at reinventing itself, where the introduction of cricket till the age of 12 or 13 should cost a parent nothing. It should cost him nothing. We can standardize kit. We can standardize balls. We can do away with pads. We don't need a hard ball. We can find an alternative. Boys and girls should play till the age of 12, 13. The pitch dimensions, why are they the way they are? Junior levels at 6, 7, 8, I see the ball go, doesn't go anywhere. And kids can hardly run because the helmets are falling over their eyes. It's just all wrong. It's not a game that's very attractive. That's the problem. It's not an attractive game for kids today. I'm sorry. You're more in a cricket environment, which is, you're playing cricket at school levels and that more through other influences, the school, the environment, club cricket, how big or good is that? Or average age of club cricket is so young today, it hasn't retained older players and all this and all that. So you ask me, yes, what is the game about today? I think it needs to seriously look at itself. It's too expensive. It's too time consuming. The aspect of time cricket, a lot of kids find it not attractive anymore. I think T20 cricket, maybe they play T30 at school. You don't get beyond that. A better utilization of facilities, I think, is much needed, just to make it give schools and kids, parents, a better return. So sadly, I'm not a believer in the future of Test cricket. I think it will be played by select nations. And 50 over, they say that's going to go first. That's popular opinion. No, I'm not too sure. But big challenge, just to finish off, Kobus, in terms of cricket today, I do believe that it's got to be made more attractive for young kids. And someone was telling me the other day, look at England, they're a great example. White ball champions in formats, and the game amongst kids is still on the decline. It's still on the decline. Why? They've got the money. They've done everything possible from a marketing selling point of view. They're world champions in T20 and 50 over. But the game at school level is still on the decline. It's still an elitist sport. It's not mass participation. In South Africa, had the same problem. Soccer is mass participation. Why? Because it's easy. You don't even need a proper soccer ball. You can play barefoot. You can have far more fun. My kids play soccer. Far more fun than 3 hours in the sun in 45 minutes, an hour of a game. And you can churn a lot of kids through and give them a great day. Long answer. Sorry about that. I sound pessimistic, but I sound pessimistic, but cricket itself will always be around. But I just question the way that it's sold today. They can do T5 if they want to. I don't know what more they can have. Clowns with a bat. They can have clowns doing ball tricks before they bowl on the field and put in everything. But the fundamentals in the game and the enjoyment at junior level is where I work. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to keep kids interested. And I know I'm not alone when I say that. And I think it's a worldwide issue.
Daryll, that leads me on to, you mentioned that you think that Test cricket will be for selected countries. Going back, I mean, all the focus these days seems to be on T20 cricket, and then when you've got a big series like the Ashes coming up, then there's a lot of interest in Test cricket. But it's only those kind of big series like Ashes or a Pakistan, India. Well, they haven't played a Test series for a very long time, but I hope we do get those kind of Test series back, because that is also. I just watched the World Cup when India played Pakistan. I mean, that is quite something to experience. But what I wanted to ask you, I've been very involved in associate cricket myself, being an ex-CEO of Kenya Cricket in 2014. And I saw since the time just before I arrived, and since I left in 2014, I only I could only handle it for 1 year. It was a very, very difficult challenge for me, Kenyan cricket. But I've seen how Kenya cricket has declined since then to where Kenya cricket is now as an associate member. And then also at present, I'm still the CEO of Ukrainian cricket, or what's left of it. But your views on associate cricket and growing the game in those minor countries?
Yeah, it's a very controversial one because, it's the stated aim, which you can't disagree with, by the ICC to grow the game globally. And that involves mass participation, and that stretches down to associate levels. Now, I mean, yesterday with the new revenue share proposed, I saw a few associate country members, CEOs, and at the recent ICC meeting, which I think perhaps is concluded, saying, well, it's going to mean even less money for them. But again, where are those and what are those resources being spent on? On what format of the game? Now, for a start, I think at associate level, forget about them trying to become test nations. For long, I mean, I think the ICC have just slowly introducing that aspect that, guys, forget about that. You don't have a cricket history or culture that's anything to speak of. Cricket may have been played, and what are the returns? Who wants to watch it? Because it all comes down to money, like most things, doesn't it? So where to then? What's going to, with what they've got, grow the game, and at what level do they play at? So then you come back to, then you're left with a test level, our traditional test playing countries. I mean, Ireland have obviously been introduced. I mean, they started test match today. It's 4 or 5 years on. As soon as you're good enough, you go to England. Owen Morgan, for example. So what is the answer? And from a weather point of view, it just doesn't make sense. Scotland struggle, blah, blah, blah. So you know, and then suddenly they have a moment, they win a test. Oh God, look where it's going. We're winning. You know, it's like, oh, what a great test match. But you know, 6-7 before that haven't been fun. They haven't been excited. England they've invigorated in a big way, not necessarily by the style of cricket they play, by baseball, but they've actually, under all circumstances, they look to win every game, declaring behind. Whereas the mode in Test cricket was always get yourself in a position where you can't lose the game, then you try and win the game. England have said, no, we're always going to try and win. And that's created a lot of interest. But how many other countries can do that? And where does that leave associate countries? So make the aspirations T20 cricket. Go back to how you play and introduce the game at junior levels. Make it mustn't cost to play cricket. And then, you know, style the type of cricket and then take that forward, which may mean that, you know, if you want to play Test cricket, you've somehow got to get to one of the top 6-7 countries in the world. Qualify. Otherwise, you resign to what's affordable and what people want to watch. So, you know, trying to grow one of the African countries to become a test playing nation, it's never going to happen. Not in our lifetime. Not ever. Never say never. You know, trying to grow Ireland into a competitive test nations, just a waste of money. Sorry, guys. It's a waste of money. Who's going to pay to watch you? So I think a lot of money has gone down the drain, and the quality of the product. As soon as you're good enough at associate level, look how many T20, T10 leagues are there around the world. And you don't need, as a player today, you don't need, and we're just about in that period now, you don't need your host country anymore to make a name for yourself to play 4, 5, T10, T20 leagues in the world today. Look what Quinton de Kock has done. He got the badge, played a bit of Test cricket, loves his fishing. I don't think he's the hardest worker on his game. Makes himself 20 million rand a year. As one guy said to me, why must I work on a test game where I'm going to get hit all the time, trying to negotiate the bouncer when practice for me is hitting half volleys and length balls for 6? And I make 20 million rand instead of 5. Go figure. So, you know, take that down to associate level. Isn't that more obvious to the guys? So they're going to have a talent drain in any case. So, you know, think of it differently, do it differently. You know, spend the money wisely, and you know, make it work for you to make the game work. That would be my message. And then, you know, Test cricket's going to be between England, Australia. South Africa might crack one. The West Indies, I mean, they've been in a serious rate of decline in terms of Test cricket. I mean, they're not even worth watching anymore in terms of Test cricket. Let's be honest. I mean, it's so sad. But times have changed and people moved on. And it all went wrong when they decided to try and keep their best players committed to Test cricket when they were earning, you know, bigger money playing at the start of T20 cricket and county cricket. They getting better deals, and the gun was held to them, and they said, "Well, pull the trigger. We're out of here," and the rest is history. Now they struggle. Sorry about that. Now they're struggling. So I think the game has been at a crossroads for a while now, and it's heading fast. So it's got to reinvent itself, and so you know, I think views on where they want to go need to change, particularly at associate level and what they hope to achieve. But it all comes down to money. I think Quibus, like I said, all comes down to money, and I think a lot of the money and a lot of the guys that are in support of growing this game and rising, taking associate country and the game at large to new levels, they all have vested interest in it. It pays them, gives them a living. I think there's a lot of money wasted, and you know, India is the big daddy, eh? India calls the shots. India basically decides, and India are the money. You know, they churn the money. They are the money makers. So, is there an ICC or is it the BCCR times 2? I'll tell you what it is. It's the BCCR times 2.
Daryll, I'm going to ask you two questions that's probably a bit more personal. A lot of friends that I talk to, when I mention my mate Daryll Cullinan, 2 topics come up. Firstly, it always used to be Daryll and what happened with Daryll and Shane Warne, Why couldn't
Yeah.
Daryll play Shane Warne? He played spin so well. He scored hundreds against Sri Lanka. But what happened with Daryll and Shane Warne? And I always had to be honest and tell them, well, I've never really asked Daryll. I've never gone there. So I would love to ask you that. And then the second question would be, more recently, there's been a bit of publicity about you and Fuff published his book, and he had a go at
Yeah.
you. I must be very honest, just from a personal viewpoint, not just as a friend of yours, but I found it extremely distasteful. I don't think it's a place for a ex-test cricketer or present test cricketer to attack ex-test cricketers that played with him in the team on a public forum like that. If you've got a problem with a guy, go and confront him. Go and knock on Daryl's door, give him a call and say, Daryll, I'm still a bit upset about something that happened 20 years ago. But to now go and have a personal attack on you, that's my personal opinion. So I think I'm going to first go to the Shane Warne,
Yeah.
what happened between you and Shane Warne.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I wish I had a dollar for every time I was asked that, because I probably get reminded on a weekly basis. One of my defenses, I mean, I played well against him in Australian one-day cricket, which no one gives me credit for. I think I was one of the most successful South African batsmen in terms of one-day cricket against Australia. 2 man of the matches. Granted, one he wasn't playing, but so the in terms of Test cricket, there was a lot of focus. I just arrived on the first tour in Australia, the back of breaking the South African record of 337 via India. Immediately arrived in Australia. I should have actually gone home. I picked up a heat stroke and bilharzia, which was a waterborne disease. I was finished. So the first 2 weeks, I had no time to prepare. And I was offered the chance to go home. But I said, no, I'll stay and I'll guts it out. And they ran straight into it. I think the first game was a one-day game, but bowled. And then it just accelerated, the whole thing. And I never gave interviews. I was in 2 tours to Australia, was told by Ali Bacha, you'll do an interview. And the media wanted an answer and they wanted interviews. So they got their backs up. So it just became a whole thing, from what I understand. Have a go at old Daryll type of thing. And I think in terms of for me, it was first of all the game. I think the ability to play into the spin, the ability to sweep him to get or strike. I wasn't doing that. I actually wasn't accomplished at doing that. Always been taught you play with a spin and that type of thing. And then no doubt it became a mental thing. He had a stranglehold over me. So in terms of test cricket, I only played 4 tests in the end. I can always argue, I was 1 test away from getting it all sorted out. But anyway, be that as it may. So I think it was in terms of bringing the right game. And I remember about a year before Martin Crowe died, we were in India doing some work with Cricket Info. And we sat, just him and I alone one night, and we had a good few whiskeys together. So I said to him, so what was your approach to Warne? He says, Daryll, I look to sweep every single ball Shane bowled at me, because all his variations went straight. And I think he told Warne that. And if I think of our guys, Hansie played him well, he swept. The lefties, it was easier. Because I said, when I played Mulitharan, I looked to sweep every ball because I was going with the spin, every ball. So I think that was first the start of, due to stubbornness, thinking, oh, you bowl me a bad ball. I thought, well, I don't need to. But if I had my time over, and ironically, it's one of the first shots I teach young kids is how to sweep today. But it definitely became then a mental stranglehold that, I felt, Test cricket, it was only inevitable. But I got through 1 or 2 little periods against him at Test level. I remember one in Pretoria, was eventually bowled by McGrath inside edge onto the stumps for about, I think, 28 or 38. But and then I always ask, what is the banter like? What is this? So yeah, there's a little bit went backwards and forwards, but I don't think it was ever got nasty. It wasn't a swearing affair and got personal. He was all about gamesmanship. And then he got some better players out than me too. I mean, he got it over 1 or 2 better players than me, Quivers. But I think mine just was media driven. I never had any friends in the media. And my attitude towards them, I think they'd let the pen really try and really get to this guy. But today I'm comfortable with the whole issue because I'm comfortable with the career that I had. I've had highs and lows. I started in an amateur period. We became amateur professionals, then professional amateurs to professionals. I played in the old South Africa. I played in the new South Africa. I entered the real professional stage. I played 25 years of first-class cricket. I had I did a few things which no other cricketers have ever done in any country. So I'm very happy with my career, and I'm very happy I'd love to have done some things differently. Absolutely, no doubt. I don't know if too many have got no regrets. Who doesn't? In not only cricket, but other things in life as well. So no, and what's interesting, Quibus? He died last year. He died on my birthday. I got the news on the 4th of March, which was my birthday. And a friend broke it to me and he said, who's died? And I said, no, yeah, Rod Marsh died. Because I think Rod Marsh died like 3-4 days before. And he said, no, Warne died. I said, no, man. And I think I was like the rest of the world. It was hard to believe. You couldn't fathom this out. It was almost like surreal. It was no. And he's also a massive loss because he's one of the few guys, and this is why I enjoyed him. I invited him to my benefit dinner in 2003. I know he was brilliant, eh? And I had something for him, and I literally had to shove it in his pocket. And he says, no, mate, I said, no, this is for your troubles. I had to shove it in his pocket, and I said, no, this is for you. He was great on the evening, and there's no doubt that those that he liked and those that he got on with, and you could see when he died, I mean, they were so loyal to him and the friendship that he developed with people. So, I on a personal level, I don't really have much bad to say about the guy. And that benefit dinner was a real treat for me. It was the way that he handled it. He was brilliant on the evening. See, he was fantastic. But yeah, it was quite something. And it took a while to come to terms with his death, I guess, like everybody else. But why I'll miss him is that he really spoke his mind. He was one of the few today, especially on air and commentary, and he would take on Cricket Australia. He would take on where it needed to be taken on. He'd voice an opinion, which very few guys do today, particularly on commentary, because the boards pay for the production, which means that then they sell the cricket rights, but the production they pay for, so they can control how many cameras you use on commentary. So if you don't toe the line, if you're going to be critical, you might not find yourself being invited back. I can call it that. But he was one of the few guys in the media that spoke his mind about the game. And sadly, I don't know of too many, if any, today. Yeah. And then what was the other question? Who was the...
Daryll, the fuff in his book. Fuff.
18 years later. Well, first of all, he lied. He got the situation wrong and he lied. So Fuff, you're a liar. And I've just said that publicly, so I'll say it again. He's a liar. He got it all wrong. And I mean, after 18 years, obviously for 18 years, this had been burning his ass that he needed to say something about me, in the manner that he did. I mean, frankly, he's had a distinguished long career. Is there anything better he could find or more, captivating, as you say? Why? I mean, I've been asked 4 times to write a book, Corbus, approached hard offers to write a book. And this is the sort of crap that you've got to dig up and spill the beans on, If I wanted to really be what he called me, which is 4 letters and starts with a C for the English listeners, yeah. I could really be that to him and tell a few stories about him if I really, really wanted to. And I got to say to him, listen, pal, he's a proud Christian and proclaims himself to be a Jesus follower on his Twitter handle. I mean, seriously, and a leader and leads by example. These are kids reading these headlines, and you're a Christian and you're speaking like this. I mean, and it's not as if you lost it in a moment. I mean, this was a book that had taken months. So he purposefully set out. He wanted to tell the world what he thought of me. And, news to him is that it probably isn't, but I can tell you it is. I think the book hasn't gone down well. I've had some of his friends tell me, and I won't disclose their names, that his other interpretations with Smith and Boucher was a lie. And my stake on the whole thing is that, if you look at Fuff, he's had his head up his ass so much and everything revolves around Fuff that I think they had enough of it and moved him out, which ultimately kind of happens. But, he's not, I don't think he's his opinion and thought of himself as a cricketer leader, I don't think the rest of the world see it as such, and he's tried desperately to try and tell us what he isn't. And I hope someone would tell him, sorry, just take a back seat, take a step back, get your head out of your ass. You're not who you think you are, or you've had the career that you have. But I mean, that's egos, and we guys get caught up with themselves. And one day the wheel will turn, and you realize, and you look back on it and realize, it's just a little speck and actually a nobody who played cricket at a time and people have moved on from. But I don't think it's that. I think he's lost more friends the way that he's approached it. Because it's gone down with mixed views, And I don't think it's even on the shelves anymore.
Daryll, has just an interesting question for me. Has he
Yeah.
ever gone to the trouble to, before the book came out, while he was busy writing it,
No,
has he ever made a call to you, just have a chat
no,
to you?
no,
No
no,
contact.
no, he wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't probably even be bothered by it, I mean, it's, he's kind of had his reasons and he's tried to sell it, and it's, the proof's in the pudding. It hasn't sold. It hasn't sold well. He's not even on the shelves anymore. I think, yeah.
Oh, very,
Quiver, sorry, man, to interrupt you there. You see it all the time. These sportsmen have their careers, and then they can't wait to write a book, and then here's my opportunity. I'm going to really have a go here. They undo a lot of good that they've achieved. If you're not, if you're going to sell a million copies and make yourself $10 million, okay, fine, it's worth it. Or if you're so strong about your integrity and doing what's right, then you wouldn't do it in any case, whatever the amount of money is. But, I always say to them, but why didn't you open your mouth when you were playing? Were you scared of being criticized then? It's almost like a cowardly approach. If you're going to do something, he's had enough. He's a prime example. He's had enough content to focus on that's positive. Rather, if you're going to get up front about it, get up front when the situation comes along. They wait till they're retired and they kind of have a go. And people, what they don't understand is whether people like you or not, people don't want to hear bad news. People don't want to hear bad news. Let them form their own opinion. As you say, having a go on an old player back then, people have their memories of, not everyone's liked. I don't think I was the most liked guy. I'm at peace with that. So what? I never made too many friends. So what? But I have a lot of people come and say, "Oh, we really enjoyed your cricket, the time that you played in. That era was unique." I'd hate to be a player today because it's so different, particularly off the field with social media and eyes on you. We really had fun. We had some great. We created. I don't think they can create or build lasting memories that we did. We played hard and we enjoyed ourselves and we saw the world and we played a style of cricket which was different. Today it's almost sterile and predictable, and they all speak the same speak, and it's the same battle speak, it's the same game face, it's the same responses. There's no copycat better than Fuff, the stubble, the designer hair, this tattoo sleeve, got over the line, and there's all this psychology and pressure talk like they've been groomed at the academies they go to, and it's just so bland and predictable, and they look the same, and it's like a race to see who's got the better. There's nothing really unique about much of them anymore. Yeah. So
No, I clearly recall. Sorry, it's my turn to interrupt you, but I recall Herschel Gibbs, that obviously also played a lot of cricket with you. He wrote a book some time ago, and he also very controversial, very similar. Had a lot to say about some of the players that played with him in the team. And
yeah.
that book also didn't, I think I saw it in the shops for about a month, and then nobody was really interested in it. So I often think I look I never played any kind of cricket that you played, but as a cricket lover, I mean, I'm passionate about cricket. It's my life. And for me, when I think back or when I hear Daryll Cullinan, I recall where I was sitting at the Oval watching you play against Devon Malcolm, and you scored 94 runs and the rest of the team I can't remember what they got bowled out for, but I think hardly anyone else got double figures. Malcolm got 9 wickets in the innings. And that's immediately, as a cricket lover, when I hear Daryll Cullinan, I recall that innings that I saw. When I think of Herschel Gibbs, I remember the record breaking score that him and mostly Graham Smith was there with him at the time at the Wanderers when they got that record score for an ODI game against Australia. Uh, we don't remember, we don't really want to remember some bit of uh, digging out some bad story or some story about Daryll or Herschel or whoever you talk about. We don't want to remember these guys for some dirt on them. We want to remember them for that special innings, that special
Yeah.
way when you sat and you watch him take wickets. That's when you're a real cricket lover. I don't think we're really interested in those kind of books trying to be controversial. And
Mm.
I think they actually miss the point there. But very interesting to hear your side as a player and who's been on
Well,
the receiving end of it.
yeah. Look, I mean, you don't want to write something or have a book that's all sort of roses and looks clean. I mean, people want some honesty and truth about people. You know, what happened there, or what was he like, or what is your experience, and his thing of that. You know, you can. One of the best ways to really get it across to somebody that you don't necessarily like them or you didn't like their game or whatever in a book is never to mention them. That's the ultimate slap
Yeah.
when people especially expect and you know they've been part of, they know you've been part of their career. Best way is never to mention them. And people will ask, but why didn't you mention him? But you're right, you're so right, Quibus, is that we I don't know who really wants that sort of, it appeals to a certain lot, but your cricket follower and when they look back, and I think stuff like that gets seen for what it is. Most of the audience today, as we know it, on whether it's whatever platform they're on or follow, no kind of, oh, well, that was his Faf trying to sell a few books. What sells good books? There's no such thing as a bad story. It's all good. There's no such thing as bad publicity. It's all good. You take that sort of cutthroat approach. But I think, being an ex-captain, he's had a good career. I've been a Faf fan. I tell you, I've been a big fan of his cricket. I'll be honest with you. And so it kind of took me by surprise, is that one would have thought he would have taken more of a dignified, even his approach to Boucher and Smith. I mean, one of the worst kept secrets in the cricket world is the contempt and the poor relationship he has with AB. I mean, they're not friends. Faf threw AB under the bus at school still. And then my opinion is that he worked AB out as captain. And my opinion is that I think AB wouldn't come back if Faf was captain. So Faf portrayed this friendship. There's no friendship there. That's one of the worst kept secrets. And I've always had utmost respect for AB. I think AB, the way he's handled it, I think he was a freak as a cricketer. The most outrageous talent I've had. I mean, Herschel's came pretty close as well. I think Herschel would have also had the game that AB had. He played T20 cricket, and we batted, and he had a batting power play, 2 fielders out. Everyone raves about AB and Vera. Can you imagine Brian Lara or Sachin? Or some of the, those big Aussie, Gilchrist, or, and we can go on. I mean, Hansie, we can go on and go on. Even guy like Jacques Callis with two. So, I've always had a lot of respect for AB. I still have a lot of respect. I think he's just carried himself. He's been a great example of the ultimate professional. That sadly we never saw the most of him, the best of him. We saw the best of him, but he could certainly have played longer. But the way Faf has just gone about it is it's been poor. It's been poorly advised, and he's just been on an ego trip. It was sad for me because you would expect ex-captain, good career, to have more. And you look behind who's written these books, and they're obscure people. And he said that he had basically written it, but I don't think he actually did. I think there was a ghostwriter, and so you just got to question the advice behind it all. But we love memories. That's what you create as a cricketer. I remember Viv Richards telling me one day, and he said, "Oh man, I was a young boy. We weren't even playing international cricket, but we had met on the previous occasion." He said, "Are you still hitting that ball?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm trying." He said, "Let me tell you something. People never remember your average. the die-hard nerd with a calculator and a pen, and he studies wisdom. That's his, that's his reading material at nighttime. And I love those guys. That game poorer without them. He said they don't remember your average, but they're going to remember, how you feel, how you made them feel. He said never forget that. Keep hitting the ball. Don't worry about your average. And these are, as you say, when you think of a name, you don't think of his average. Think, I remember that innings. I remember that moment. I remember what happened there. One of mine is obviously Daryll and Shane Warne. It's a memory, it's at my cost. But it's a topic. And people still come up to me and say, man, I remember that cover drive. No one had a cover drive like you. And that's what I say to young guys today, leave memories behind. And, other stuff is just as important, but don't get caught up in, leave them thinking, leave them that long lost memory. And you get, don't go down the road of if you've got nothing good to say, don't say it. That's me telling me. I'm 56. It's one of the things I would have changed, Quivers. But, with wisdom, you understand. So I think I like Faf and those who write those books. They'll be 56 one day, and they'll look back and say, no, that was not a good move. Because there are a lot of people that feel differently about what you think of someone. So you just alienate people. Rather, as I said, just don't do it. And, he's a man that's made a lot of money. And like other guys, you're not going to make money out of a book. It's just an absolute ego trip. And if you just look at him, you can see he's all about ego. Yeah, Kobus. Yeah.
Very interesting to get your views. Lovely talking to you. I just want to mention something that I think very few people outside of your real inner circle of friends and probably close family is aware of. You've just been through a very, very hard time with your health recently. I relate to that because I'm very lucky. There's on the health side, I'm okay, but I nearly got wiped out by Russian missiles in Kiev. So I also had a tough year of going through a lot, moving from Kiev, escaping the war, trying to start a new life with my 4 dogs here in Zagreb in Croatia, where I'm at present. And but I think so for both of us, we've been through. It's been a hard year. Do you mind just telling me a little bit how you're doing now, if things have improved?
Yes, Kobus. So let me first start with you because your experience has helped me put. I've been dealing with prostate cancer. That'll kind of me put it into perspective, and I'll elaborate a little bit on that. You've actually been an inspiration for me because your experiences, going through sitting in that apartment and the Russians are shelling Kiev. I think we were on WhatsApp constantly all the time. And whenever I didn't see the blue ticks, I thought, okay, a shell has hit the building where he is, and that's the end of him. So I think that you were sitting with, I don't know how you did it. I mean, enormous stress. At any moment now, you could get taken out. That's almost like waiting, I would imagine, and I don't want to say now you feel because that would be an insult. Until you've lived through that type of pressure, you can't say to someone, it's the worst thing you can say, I know how you feel. No, you don't. Because I think it must have been like facing the standing in front of the firing squad waiting for the trigger. But thank God you got out of it and you found a way. And that never surprised me, because I always, if anyone I know that was going to find a way out of it all, would have been you. Would have been you. Because you've been able to speak yourself out of any situation more than anybody else I know. and I think you should write the real book about your life. You should write a real book about your life. I mean, I know some amazing stories you shared with your close friends, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of them. But so I've also just out of the blue, just routine check, then got diagnosed and had it removed, but it was still about, then been through radiation, been through hormone therapy, which I'm still under. But I'm still on track for cure. And last Thursday, I got my first proper zero reading. But, the hormone therapy plays a role in starving the cancer cells because they live off testosterone. And that's what the hormone therapy does. It blocks your production of testosterone. But you know, we have a mutual friend, Mario, who's lived through it again to the ultimate extreme and has kept going. So I just said to myself, you know, you think you got it bad, there's worse than you. In any situation, there's always someone who's struggling more. And you do take a serious step back because I had a liver scare at the time before the radiation, and I thought, hang on, it had found its way there. Then it's you can literally, you know, get ready, just wrap things up. You might have 6 months, 2 years if you're lucky. So that proved to be a scare, although I've got to go back in about 3 months' time just to follow up. So it'll be a lifelong thing, but we seem to have got it just in time, perhaps a little bit too late. So I'm a very big fan of it now. To all you guys out there, go and get it and have your bloods taken, but go and do it because it's simple. It's just take bloods. That's the ultimate that they check it on, and it's the biggest killer amongst us. I think the equivalent amongst women is breast cancer, and for what you'd really have to do, and you almost take it for granted. And I've been wanting to do it for 3 years, and never. And I wish I had gone when I should have. I went at 40, and the guy said, "See you later." So I think and I had no noticeable signs, Quivers, and I think there must be hundreds of thousands of men out there with no noticeable signs that are living what I was living till it's too late. So please go and have it seen to. Don't wait for the inevitable, because then it's too late. It's too late. So yeah, we've both faced that moment, I think, in different circumstances, Quibus. But you know, I won't be surprised if you process this stuff, and it can take a lot of time. So I wonder are you still processing it? Or do you think it's, I think when you're living on the edge there and it could be any moment, or that bad news could be fatal, it does make you step back and reevaluate, which we're all doing. We get told every single day, everyone, and you read, and it's all the memes about life, live it day by day and live it moment by moment and all that sort of stuff. But until you actually see it and this is real now, you do kind of come out of it, you do come out of it better for it. And hopefully that'll continue in my case.
Daryll, no, thank you so much. It was incredibly interesting and just nice to chat to. It's not just a Daryll Cullinan that I watch playing cricket. It's a friend. You mentioned Mario are my two closest friends. We go back more than 30 years. Our friendship.
30.
And yes, Daryll. So it's been an absolute privilege and just so nice to sit and have a talk to you. Incredibly interesting stuff. I really hope I'm hoping to make this a regular feature, to have these podcasts with you. There's still so much I want to talk to you about. That team that you played in. I mean, I grew up with people like Alan Donald, yourself, John T. Gary. I mean, Hansie, Kepler. These guys were my heroes, and I wonder how much time of my life I spent watching them play cricket, either at provincial level, sitting as a kid at the Wanderers, later on at Newlands when I was at Stellenbosch University, and I made my life in Cape Town, and then also following them playing Test cricket overseas. I was fortunate enough to be in England quite a few times during when you guys were touring there. I spent a lot of time throwing cricket balls to you. So I would really like to continue this podcast series and talk more about those days. And also, as the game is happening at the moment, I would like to do some podcasts when there's with the Ashes series, get your views on the Ashes, the wickets that they're playing on. You've played there, the players, so it would be incredibly interesting. So thank you so much, Daryll, for your time.
Pleasure.
Really nice chatting to you, and I'm going to start working on the next podcast. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, my mate.
Thanks, Daryll.
You too. Cheers, Kubi. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Daryll. Bye-bye.